They told him to obey, but he chose differently. Rain pounded the empty parking lot, slick concrete reflecting the flashing red and blue of patrol lights. Captain James Holden's boots splashed through shallow puddles, each step echoing like a drumbeat in the cold night air. The wind carried the scent of wet asphalt and distant sea salt, sharp and biting against his skin. Shadow, his German shepherd, moved with precision beside him, every muscle taut, ears pricked, tail low but steady. He could feel the years of training and shared missions in the dog's rhythm, the unspoken language between them pulsing through each heartbeat. Holden's voice broke the silence, soft yet urgent. "Shadow, it's me." The K9's amber eyes locked onto him, a flash of recognition mingled with instinct. Somewhere on the edge of the lot, officers murmured commands, their voices distant yet insistent, but Holden barely heard them, focused entirely on the silent, understanding passing between man and dog. Water dripped from the edges of his uniform jacket, his breath visible in the cool night, each exhale forming a fleeting cloud that mingled with the fog creeping across the lot. The smell of wet fur rose as Shadow shifted closer, a gentle brush of his flank against Holden's leg, reassuring, grounding. Flashbacks stirred, long convoys across deserts, dusty roads under scorching sun, nights spent in makeshift tents, the quiet moments when danger paused and loyalty spoke louder than orders. Holden's hand brushed against the leather collar, worn from years of service, and the dog responded with a subtle tilt of his head, ears flicking to the side, the softest growl vibrating low in his chest, but filled with recognition rather than threat. Thunder rolled overhead, a distant echo of storms past. But here, in this frozen moment, the world narrowed to the wet concrete, the flickering lights, and the bond that refused to yield. Each droplet of rain seemed to slow, each shadow stretching longer as Holden's pulse synchronized with Shadow's cautious movements, the tension of potential chaos held in suspension. The officers' voices edged closer, crisp and formal, but Shadow didn't budge from Holden's side, a silent testament to shared trust forged under fire and reinforced through quiet, unwavering commitment. The metallic scent of nearby vehicles mixed with the earthy smell of damp ground and the faint tang of ozone, every sensory detail sharpening the awareness between man and dog, heightening focus. A faint breeze lifted droplets from the puddles, flicking them across boots and paws alike, and in that instant, time felt elastic. Each second waited with anticipation. Shadow's eyes never left Holden, searching, calculating, tethered to memory and instinct, the past and present colliding in a single glance. Holden's voice cut again, firmer now, threading through the storm. "You know what to do." And Shadow, sensing the unspoken truth in that tone, shifted fully, stance firm, chest rising and falling with deliberate breaths, the space between them charged with an unspoken promise. Whatever came next, loyalty would guide the outcome. A lone street lamp flickered, casting a long beam across the lot, illuminating the subtle rise and fall of Shadow's flank, the tension of readiness, and Holden's steady, determined gaze. In that frozen tableau, the thread of the order lingered, unanswered, suspended in the night, and the viewer could feel the weight of anticipation pressing against every sound, every drop of rain, every shiver of fur. The scene held, unresolved yet electrifying, a heartbeat before the miracle, a breath before the choice. A single, silent question hung in the air. Would obedience override the bond, or would instinct and loyalty change everything? The rain began to taper off, leaving the asphalt glistening like a sheet of glass beneath the flickering parking lot lights. Captain James Holden shifted his weight, boots squelching softly, eyes scanning the edges of the lot where shadows clung to the corners of abandoned vehicles. Shadow stepped forward, deliberate and measured, muscles rippling under the sable coat, as if testing the balance between instinct and memory. The wind carried faint smells of wet concrete, diesel, and distant pine, sharp and tangible, brushing across James's face and tugging at the edges of his soaked jacket. A flash of lightning illuminated the lot, revealing the subtle rise and fall of Shadow's chest, the tense set of his ears, and the faint scar above his muzzle that caught the light, hinting at missions long past. James's hand hovered near the dog, trembling slightly, as memories rose unbidden. Desert convoys under a relentless sun, nights spent in sand-filled tents with only the stars above, the quiet moments when Shadow's presence was the only anchor against fear. Each heartbeat echoed in the hollow expanse of the lot, the rhythm of anticipation syncing with the patter of raindrops still clinging to puddles. From a distance, faint voices of officers reached them, clipped and formal, their cadence a reminder of the command structure that Shadow had once obeyed without question. Yet now, in this stretched moment, obedience was measured against memory, loyalty, and the unspoken promise between man and dog. Holden crouched slightly, inhaling the wet air, voice low and steady. "Follow me, Shadow." The K-9's amber eyes narrowed, scanning every angle, every potential threat, yet the familiar trust in James's tone coaxed a subtle wag, a small shift in stance that spoke volumes. Shadows of the past flickered again, the quiet reassurance in a foxhole under moonlight, the soft nudge that had pulled him back from panic after a sudden storm in the field, the way Shadow had always gauged his captain's needs without instruction. A low rumble of distant thunder punctuated the silence, a natural percussion that mirrored the tension coiling between steps, breaths, and the soft slosh of waterlogged shoes. James moved toward the edge of the lot, a cautious line of light outlining the distant street, and Shadow followed, careful yet deliberate, paws pressing against wet asphalt with silent authority. The pair navigated around scattered traffic cones and puddles, the scene bathed in alternating shadows and light, every detail heightened by the aftermath of the storm. Holden's pulse remained measured, yet the weight of expectation pressed against his chest, each step a negotiation of trust, instinct, and timing. Shadow paused briefly, ears swiveling, tail brushing against the slick surface, eyes fixed on James with an intensity that spoke of shared history and quiet reassurance. In that suspended space, the world narrowed. The glow of a distant lamppost, the shimmer of rain still clinging to leaves, and the unspoken dialogue that had been built over years of companionship. Every flicker of light, every gust of wind, every subtle movement carried meaning, threading together past and present, instinct and reason. The silent understanding that hung between them was palpable, a living tether stronger than words, heavier than any order, promising that the next step, whatever it held, would be guided by the unbreakable bond that had endured deserts, storms, and years of unwavering loyalty. And as they moved, side by side, the anticipation built like the slow swell of tide, the air thick with potential, each second drawing them closer to the moment when instinct would meet decision and the true measure of loyalty would reveal itself. The distant hum of city traffic mixed with the dripping of water from nearby rooftops, a rhythm that matched the steady cadence of Captain James Holden's boots across the wet asphalt. Shadow padded silently beside him, paws splashing in shallow puddles, ears swiveling with heightened attention as though sensing the slightest change in the air. Neon signs flickered across the darkened lot, casting intermittent patches of light over rain-slicked concrete, illuminating the dog's taut muscles and alert stance. James's breath formed small clouds in the cold night air, each exhale carrying the scent of wet leather from his jacket, mingling with the metallic tang of moisture-laden concrete. He adjusted the collar, feeling the worn leather against his palm, a tactile reminder of years of missions, long nights, and countless quiet moments shared with Shadow. Memories rose again, soft and fleeting. The desert dawn, heat rippling off the sand, the silent communication in the hum of engines, the subtle nudge that had steadied him when the world seemed to sway too violently. Each recollection strengthened the bond, an invisible tether guiding their steps through the storm. Holden's eyes flicked toward the edges of the lot, where shadows gathered, elongated and black, their shapes moving with the faintest hint of caution. Shadow paused, head tilted, muscles coiled with quiet readiness, eyes locking on Holden with unwavering trust. The air was thick with tension, yet under it lay the familiar warmth of connection, the unspoken assurance that whatever lay ahead would be faced together. Raindrops ran along the brim of Holden's hat, splattering across the concrete, each one a soft percussion in the symphony of the stormy night. The glow of distant street lamps glinted off wet surfaces, painting the world in flickering highlights and shadowed contrasts, each beam catching in the dog's coat, bringing out subtle flecks of gray against the sable fur. A distant siren wailed softly, echoing through the empty streets, but it was Shadow's amber eyes that drew every focus, reflecting years of loyalty, shared experience, and quiet courage. Holden's hand hovered over the dog's flank, brushing against the thick fur, feeling the strength, the rhythm of life steady beneath his fingers, and the slight shiver that betrayed excitement, anticipation, and recognition. Every step forward was measured, deliberate, the echo of past missions resonating in the tension of the present. The lot stretched before them, seemingly endless under the storm-darkened sky, puddles reflecting distorted images of streetlights, vehicles, and the two figures moving through it. Holden inhaled, the scent of wet concrete, faint gasoline, and rain-saturated leather filling his senses, grounding him as he glanced down at Shadow, whose tail swept slowly side to side, a metronome marking patience, awareness, and silent communication. Lightning forked across the sky, illuminating the contours of the parking lot, casting the two companions in stark relief, and in that brief instant, the shared understanding between man and dog crystallized. Movement, timing, and trust would dictate the next moment, a choice balanced between instinct and remembered bond, and the night seemed to hold its breath as each step carried the weight of the past, the immediacy of the present, and the promise of what loyalty would demand next. The rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle, leaving a silver sheen on the pavement that mirrored the flickering streetlights above. Captain James Holden adjusted the collar of Shadow, feeling the warmth of the dog's body press reassuringly against his side, a tactile connection that grounded him in the midst of uncertainty. Every droplet that fell from the clouds above hit the concrete with a soft plink, echoing faintly in the empty parking lot, and mingled with the scent of wet asphalt, damp leaves, and leather, creating an atmosphere both tense and intimate. Shadow moved with careful precision, each paw placement deliberate, his amber eyes scanning for cues, not just from the environment, but from Holden himself, attuned to every subtle gesture, every whispered breath. Holden's thoughts drifted briefly to missions long past, early dawns in desert sands, the low hum of engines, the soft shuffle of footprints on gravel, and the moments of stillness where trust had been forged silently, unspoken but unbreakable. The city beyond the lot remained quiet, neon signs casting long reflections across puddles, the glow muted and wavering as if the world itself was holding its breath. Shadow paused beside a shallow puddle, nose twitching, ears raised, chest rising and falling in measured breaths, a gentle growl vibrating in his throat, not threatening, but signaling awareness, focus, and anticipation. Holden bent slightly, placing a hand on the dog's flank, feeling the tension ease just enough to allow a shared rhythm to emerge, a silent conversation conducted through movement, gaze, and subtle shifts of weight. Lightning arced across the sky, briefly illuminating the wet lot in stark relief, highlighting the subtle contours of Shadow's muscles, the gleam of wet fur along his back, and the determined focus in his eyes that mirrored Holden's own. The faint distant sounds of traffic and a far-off train blended with the soft patter of rain, creating a layered soundscape that amplified every small motion, every cautious step, every shared heartbeat. Shadow shifted forward slightly, glancing up at Holden with a tilt of the head that conveyed understanding and readiness, a reassurance that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Holden exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the moment pressing lightly against his chest, the anticipation tempered by trust, by the shared history and countless small moments that had built a foundation stronger than fear or orders. The reflections of puddles, the subtle shifts in light, the distant hum of the city, and the rhythm of breath and paw beats combined to form a cinematic tableau, a frozen frame alive with tension, loyalty, and unspoken promise. As they moved deeper into the lot, navigating the wet asphalt and scattered debris, each careful step was a negotiation between caution and trust, instinct and reason, past and present, the bond between man and dog dictating the flow, timing, and purpose of every motion. The night seemed to stretch endlessly, but within that stretch, every detail, the glint of light off wet surfaces, the muted scent of rain and earth, the coiled energy in Shadow's frame, the steady calm of Holden's presence, constructed a tension that was at once delicate and unyielding, holding the promise that what would happen next would be guided not by chance, but by the steadfast connection that had endured storms, darkness, and uncertainty, ready to manifest at the exact moment loyalty demanded. Shadow's paws pressed against the rain-slicked asphalt with quiet determination, each step measured and deliberate, his amber eyes locked on Captain James Holden, mirroring the same focus and patience that had carried them through years of missions together. The light drizzle refracted the glow of distant street lamps, scattering the reflections across puddles and wet concrete, casting long, wavering shadows that stretched like brushstrokes across the lot. Holden's boots splashed softly through the scattered water, the rhythmic sound blending with the gentle hum of distant traffic and the faint rustle of leaves stirred by the shifting breeze. His breath came steady, visible in the cool night air, carrying the sharp scent of rain-soaked leather and wet fur that clung to Shadow's thick sable coat, flecked with subtle hints of gray along the muzzle and ears. Every flicker of light, every reflection off the wet asphalt, highlighted the taut muscles of the dog, the subtle rise and fall of his chest, the deliberate tilt of his head as he processed the world around him while remaining tethered to Holden's movements and energy. Flashbacks surfaced in Holden's mind, not violent or chaotic, but small, intimate recollections of shared nights under desert skies, the quiet moments after long convoys where Shadow had leaned against him, offering warmth and reassurance without a sound. Each memory added weight to the trust in the present, the unspoken promise that they would navigate the night together, instinct and loyalty intertwined. Holden's hand brushed lightly along Shadow's back, feeling the subtle tension relax as the dog acknowledged the connection. A silent conversation carried through the rhythm of steps, the sway of the tail, the slight flick of ears. Thunder rolled softly in the distance, a muted percussion behind the drizzle, blending with the occasional splash of water as Shadow adjusted his pace, maintaining perfect alignment with Holden. The lot stretched ahead, still and glistening, punctuated by puddles reflecting streaks of neon and distant headlights, creating a sense of space both expansive and intimate, framing the two figures moving in synchrony. Holden inhaled deeply, the cool air sharp against his lungs, grounding him in the moment, each breath connecting to the dog beside him, reinforcing the bond that had been built over countless days, hours, and moments of quiet understanding. Shadow paused briefly at a small puddle, nose twitching, ears rotating with heightened awareness, then looked up, eyes meeting Holden's, a soft communication that conveyed readiness, patience, and unwavering attention. The world seemed to hold its breath, the muted sounds of the city fading into the background, leaving only the soft patter of rain, the distant hum of lights, and the steady pulse of trust that beat between man and dog. Each careful step forward, each shared glance, each subtle movement carried the weight of anticipation, the promise of the next moment shaped not by chance, but by the steadfast connection and mutual understanding that had always guided them, an invisible tether stronger than any external direction or command, guiding them through the night toward the unspoken resolution that lay just beyond the glistening expanse of asphalt. The drizzle began to thin, leaving a fine mist that hovered low over the pavement, blurring the reflections of distant streetlights into soft streaks of gold and white. Captain James Holden slowed his pace slightly, glancing down at Shadow, whose stance remained vigilant but controlled, tail low and sweeping with subtle rhythm. Each step the dog took was deliberate, every paw placement measured against the slick surface, muscles rippling beneath the sable fur, hints of gray catching the intermittent light, a silent display of strength and focus. The night air was crisp, carrying the earthy scent of rain-soaked leaves and asphalt, mixed with the faint metallic tang of moisture-laden concrete, sharp and invigorating against Holden's senses. Shadow's ears twitched at distant sounds, a soft scrape of tires, a far-off bark, the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze, yet his attention never wavered from Holden's movements, a silent promise that he would remain steadfast. Holden inhaled slowly, drawing the cool air deep into his lungs, feeling the steady beat of his own heart align with the measured rise and fall of Shadow's chest. He ran his hand along the dog's flank, the thick fur damp but warm, a reassurance that anchored him amid the uncertainty of the lot. Memories drifted briefly, quiet desert mornings before the sun broke the horizon, the soft whistle of wind through tents, the comforting presence of the dog beside him during hours of waiting and watching. Each memory strengthened the bond, an invisible tether that guided every step, every glance, every motion. The mist swirled around their legs as they approached the edge of the lot, puddles reflecting fractured shards of light, creating a mosaic of shadows that seemed almost alive. Shadow paused at the first of these reflections, nose twitching, eyes scanning, muscles coiled in readiness, a low, steady hum of awareness resonating through his body. Holden crouched slightly, speaking softly, voice calm and steady. "Keep close, Shadow." And the dog responded with a subtle shift, pressing closer, head held high, eyes flicking briefly toward the distant buildings before returning to his captain. The ambient sounds of the city, muted and softened by the mist, provided a gentle rhythm against which their movements were set, a symphony of quiet anticipation, dripping water, and the occasional far-off horn. Each step forward was synchronized, instinct and trust dictating the flow, the dog interpreting not just commands but unspoken intent. Every flicker of Holden's gaze, every slight movement of his body conveyed meaning that Shadow understood instinctively. Light from a far street lamp caught in the raindrops clinging to leaves and concrete, casting tiny prisms around them as they moved, turning the wet lot into a shifting canvas of reflections and shadows. The pair navigated carefully, each puddle and slick surface a minor challenge, yet neither faltered, their rhythm unbroken. Shadow's eyes remained bright, amber reflecting both the glow of streetlights and the steady focus on Holden, chest rising and falling with deliberate breaths, signaling patience, awareness, and unwavering connection. The tension of the night hung in the air, thick but tempered by the certainty of their bond, the silent knowledge that together they would navigate whatever lay ahead, the anticipation building quietly, yet inexorably, toward the unspoken moment of clarity that would define the rest of the night. Captain James Holden paused at the edge of the lot, the soft mist curling around his boots, each droplet catching the dim glow of the streetlights above and refracting it into tiny pinpricks of light that danced across the wet pavement. Shadow stepped forward cautiously, chest low, ears swiveling to capture every whisper of sound from the surrounding empty streets, tail brushing lightly against the slick asphalt in a measured rhythm. Holden's hand lingered on the dog's flank, feeling the steady heartbeat beneath the thick sable fur, the subtle warmth anchoring him in the midst of the tension that seemed to saturate the night air. The distant hum of the city was muted by the drizzle, leaving only the sound of their synchronized movements, the soft splash of water beneath boots and paws, and the occasional whisper of wind rustling through damp leaves. Shadows flickered across walls and puddles, distorted reflections blending with the faint glow of distant neon signs, creating a shifting tapestry of light and darkness that framed the two figures as they moved in silent coordination. Holden's thoughts drifted to quieter moments from past missions, dawns in desert sands where the horizon burned gold, the comforting presence of Shadow beside him in tents filled with dust, and the scent of worn leather, the silent reassurance offered without a word. Every memory reinforced the trust that now governed their steps, an unspoken dialogue of movement, glance, and breath, guiding them through the lot with precision born of years of shared experience. Shadow paused briefly at a puddle, nose twitching, tail sweeping in a slow arc, muscles coiled and ready but controlled, amber eyes fixed on Holden for a subtle cue. A flicker of lightning illuminated the wet lot for a heartbeat, revealing the smooth, taut lines of the dog's body, the wet sheen of his fur, and the faint glint of gray along his muzzle that marked a life of service and loyalty. Holden exhaled slowly, letting the cool air fill his lungs and draw a line of calm through the tension, his gaze meeting Shadow's with a shared understanding that transcended words. The rain-soaked asphalt stretched ahead, puddles reflecting the pattern of lights from distant buildings, each step forward a measured negotiation between instinct and command, memory and presence. Shadow moved with the fluid precision of a creature attuned entirely to his partner, each paw step deliberate, the subtle flex of his muscles a testament to readiness and awareness. Holden's senses heightened, the faint metallic tang of wet concrete, the soft smell of damp fur, the delicate cadence of raindrops pattering across the lot, all interwoven into a rhythm that connected man and dog in a single, synchronized awareness. They approached the far edge, where the lot sloped gently toward the quiet street beyond, and Holden's voice broke the hush, low and steady. "We are almost there, Shadow." And the dog responded with a barely perceptible tilt of his head, a silent acknowledgement, the amber eyes shining with focus and trust. Every movement, every breath, every detail, the sheen of wet fur, the pattern of reflections in puddles, the subtle shifts of posture, reinforced the bond that had been tested and strengthened through time, experience, and countless shared moments. The tension lingered, soft and electric. As they continued forward, anticipation pressing gently against the rhythm of steps, the promise of what loyalty would dictate next hanging in the misty, rain-scented air, a quiet certainty that whatever came, they would face it together. The mist began to lift, revealing the full expanse of the empty parking lot under the pale glow of streetlights, the wet asphalt shimmering like liquid silver beneath the faint drizzle. Captain James Holden paused, feeling the slight give of the ground beneath his boots, the rhythmic splash of Shadow's paws. Beside him, creating a cadence that echoed softly through the quiet night. The air was dense with the scent of wet concrete, rain-soaked leaves, and the faint tang of damp leather, carrying the subtle undertone of the city just beyond, muffled and distant. Shadow's amber eyes remained fixed on Holden, every movement calculated, every shift of weight deliberate, muscles rippling under the sable fur as he mirrored his captain's pace, ears flicking at every whispered sound, tail low but moving in a measured sweep. Holden inhaled deeply, the cool night air filling his lungs, steadying his pulse as he watched the soft rise and fall of the dog's chest, feeling the warmth radiating through the thick coat, a tactile reminder of the trust and history between them. Flashes of memory surfaced unbidden. Dawn breaks over desert sands, the subtle brush of wind through canvas tints, the soft pad of Shadow's paws on gravel, the quiet assurance of presence in moments of waiting and uncertainty, a lifetime of small gestures creating an unbreakable bond. Each recollection threaded into the present, guiding every step, every glance, every careful movement, a silent dialogue that needed no words. The reflections in puddles shimmered, distorted by the faint breeze and intermittent flicker of light, creating a tapestry of movement and shadow across the lot. Shadow paused at the edge of a particularly deep puddle, nose twitching, head tilting, eyes scanning the surroundings, and then returning to Holden, a subtle acknowledgement that the path forward was clear, the instinct to protect harmonizing perfectly with memory and training. Holden's hand brushed along the dog's back, feeling the tension ease as Shadow adjusted his stance, a soft growl vibrating through the chest not in warning, but in concentration, a living manifestation of focus and patience. The soft hum of distant traffic, the occasional drip of water from nearby rooftops, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze created a layered soundscape, heightening awareness, emphasizing the delicate interplay of attention, trust, and anticipation that governed the moment. Each step further into the lot stretched time, elongating seconds into a slow, deliberate passage, the world reduced to the two of them, a wet asphalt stage illuminated in shifting pools of light and shadow. The dog's amber eyes caught every subtle motion, every breath, every slight shift in Holden's stance, translating them into instant decisions, maintaining perfect alignment, a physical extension of the captain's own judgment and intent. Holden's pulse synchronized with the rhythmic press of paws on wet concrete, each heartbeat echoing the quiet conversation that passed silently between them, a testament to shared history, unwavering trust, and the subtle, unspoken understanding that the next move, when it came, would be guided by loyalty, instinct, and the bond that had endured countless storms, both literal and metaphorical. The scene held, suspended in the delicate balance of anticipation, breath, and presence, the night poised on the edge of revelation, every droplet, shadow, and soft movement charged with the promise of what was about to unfold. Shadow's stance shifted subtly, muscles coiled beneath the wet sable coat as amber eyes fixed on Captain James Holden, reading the faintest cues in his posture, the tilt of his head, the rhythm of his breathing. A distant foghorn moaned faintly, merging with the soft patter of remaining drizzle, creating a layered cadence that emphasized the stillness between movements. Holden's boots pressed against the slick asphalt, each step deliberate, echoing softly in the muted night, water splashing gently with every shift of weight. The mist swirled around street lamp bases, casting elongated, wavering reflections across puddles, and in each shimmering fragment, the dog and man moved as one, shadowed figures in a quiet ballet of anticipation and trust. The cool night air carried the scent of damp concrete, wet foliage, and leather from Holden's jacket, mingling with the subtle earthiness of Shadow's fur, grounding both in the moment and heightening sensory perception. Memory surfaced in Holden's mind, fleeting flashes of desert mornings with the sun rising over sand-colored hills, the soft rustle of tint canvas in the wind, the comforting press of Shadow's body during long waits and silent watches, every recollection reinforcing the tether of loyalty that connected them. Shadow paused, ears flicking at a distant sound, tail sweeping slowly, alert yet measured, eyes reflecting light and understanding in equal measure, ready to respond, but waiting for the subtle signal from Holden that had always guided action. The pair navigated puddles and uneven surfaces with synchrony, the dog's paws pressing lightly against the water, the faint splash melding with the soft hum of distant traffic and the whisper of the breeze through trees lining the lot. Holden's breath came steady, visible in the cool night, each exhale forming a transient cloud that mingled with the mist, marking the passage of time in a rhythm both delicate and deliberate. Light flickered from distant signs, casting glints on wet surfaces and highlighting the subtle sway of Shadow's muscles, the faint glimmer of gray along his muzzle, and the intensity of his gaze, unbroken and unwavering. Holden's hand moved along the dog's back, drawing reassurance from warmth and familiarity, the tactile connection reinforcing focus, patience, and a shared understanding that had been honed over years. Each step, each glance, each subtle motion was a dialogue without words, a testament to bond, memory, and instinct, the anticipation building toward a moment yet unseen. The mist shifted, drifting across puddles and asphalt, blurring reflections and adding depth to the scene, the night holding its breath as every droplet, every shadow, and every motion was imbued with tension and promise. The world felt narrowed to the shared space between man and dog, the surrounding lot fading into a backdrop of silvered light and muted color, a canvas upon which the unspoken choice of loyalty and instinct would soon manifest, leaving the outcome suspended in a quiet, electrifying pause that held the night in delicate balance, every heartbeat echoing the weight of the bond, the promise of protection, and the anticipation of what would unfold next. The first rays of early dawn began to pierce the mist, pale gold filtering through the lingering fog, casting long, shifting patterns across the wet asphalt of the parking lot. Captain James Holden's boots made soft, deliberate splashes as he advanced, each step echoing faintly, harmonizing with the gentle patter of residual rain. Shadow walked beside him, body low and controlled, muscles flexing under the sable coat, the faint silver streaks along his muzzle catching the new light and giving him a quiet, noble glow. Holden's hand rested lightly on the dog's back, fingertips brushing against damp fur, feeling the steady, reassuring pulse beneath, a living anchor connecting past and present, instinct and experience. The world beyond the lot was still muted, buildings and distant traffic blurred through the lifting mist, leaving the two of them in a suspended space of clarity and anticipation. Every sound, the drip of water from a nearby awning, the subtle rustle of wet leaves, the soft hum of distant engines, was absorbed and processed by Shadow, ears swiveling and tail moving in a measured rhythm, an extension of Holden's own awareness. The reflections, in puddles shimmered with the gold of dawn, stretching shadows and light into intricate, fleeting patterns that danced across the lot, emphasizing the stillness, the shared patience, and the unspoken dialogue between man and dog. Holden's breath was visible, a steady rhythm, mingling with the mist, each exhale carrying the earthy scent of damp concrete, wet leather, and the faint tang of rain on the asphalt. Shadow paused momentarily at a deeper puddle, nose twitching, amber eyes locking with Holden's, a silent communication passing between them, a reassurance that the path ahead was theirs to navigate together, that instinct and memory would guide each step. The fog swirled softly, drifting across reflections, casting elongated, gentle shadows that shifted with the faint morning light, highlighting the rise and fall of the dog's chest, the subtle movement of ears and tail, the precise coordination between his body and Holden's guidance. Flashbacks played briefly in Holden's mind. Quiet desert dawns, the soft hum of distant engines, the comforting weight of Shadow's presence during long, still hours, the seamless trust built through countless shared moments, small and intimate. Every memory reinforced the bond, threading it into the present, guiding each movement, each glance, each careful shift in weight and stance. The mist thinned further as they moved forward, puddles reflecting fractured beams of light, creating a dynamic, almost cinematic canvas across which they progressed, synchronized, measured, prepared. The lot seemed to stretch endlessly, yet the space between Holden and Shadow was concentrated, intimate, alive with anticipation. Each motion, each breath, each reflection of light in wet surfaces reinforced the understanding that the next moment would be determined not by chance, but by the unwavering connection between them, the alignment of memory, instinct, and loyalty. The morning air carried the promise of clarity, the quiet exhilaration of trust realized, and the subtle, taut energy between man and dog suggested that the approaching moments would unfold with precision, grace, and the profound affirmation of a bond that had been tested and proved unbreakable. The sun crept higher, burning through the thinning mist and casting soft amber light across the wet asphalt, turning puddles into tiny mirrors reflecting the warmth of the morning. Captain James Holden paused, letting the gentle illumination wash over him and Shadow, who remained at his side, muscles relaxing slightly now that the tension of the night had eased. Every step the dog took was careful, measured, a reflection of the trust that had been cultivated through years of shared experience, each paw sinking lightly into shallow puddles, sending ripples across the reflective surfaces. Holden's hand rested along Shadow's back, the warmth of fur against his palm grounding him, a tactile affirmation of the bond that had been tested and proven resilient in the quiet and in the storm. The distant hum of the waking city reached them faintly, muted by the lingering fog, blending with the soft drip of water from nearby rooftops and the occasional rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Shadow's amber eyes scanned the surroundings with measured patience, but whenever they flicked to Holden, there was a clear communication, a silent understanding that the path forward was shared, navigated together, and that every instinct would be guided by the trust established long ago. The reflections in puddles shifted with the new light, casting elongated patterns of gold and silver across the lot, highlighting the subtle movement of muscles, the gentle sweep of tail, the deliberate placement of paws, and the quiet, synchronized rhythm of man and dog moving as one. Holden inhaled deeply, the cool air sharp but refreshing, carrying the scent of rain-soaked concrete, faint ozone, and damp leather, and he exhaled slowly, letting the sensation steady his mind, anchoring him in the moment, in the presence of the steadfast companion at his side. Memories flickered briefly, desert mornings where sun rose over sand-colored hills, the soft wind whispering through canvas tents, and the reassuring press of Shadow's body beside him during long, silent watches, each recollection reinforcing the foundation of trust and loyalty that governed their movements now. As they approached the far edge of the lot, the city beyond slowly emerged from the fog, muted colors and shapes forming a calm backdrop to their deliberate progress. Each step, each glance, each measured movement carried the weight of the bond, the shared history, and the quiet affirmation of understanding and loyalty that had never wavered. Shadow paused once, briefly sniffing the air, before pressing closer to Holden, a subtle brush of flank along his leg that spoke of reassurance, readiness, and unwavering devotion. The gentle patter of water continued around them, blending with distant traffic and faint city sounds, forming a delicate symphony underscoring the intimacy of their shared moment. In the glow of the rising sun, the tension of the night evaporated, replaced by a serene rhythm of trust, presence, and connection, a quiet tableau of man and dog moving together through the softened morning light, each aware of the other, each step a testament to the bond that had endured uncertainty, the anticipation of future choices, and the enduring strength of loyalty manifest in every glance, every motion, every silent affirmation exchanged between Captain James Holden and Shadow. The morning light deepened, casting a soft, golden hue across the wet asphalt, transforming the reflections in puddles into a shimmering mosaic of warmth and clarity. Captain James Holden stopped for a moment, letting the stillness of the dawn settle around him, the cool air carrying the faint scent of rain-soaked concrete, fresh leaves, and Shadow's damp sable coat, mingling to create an atmosphere both grounding and intimate. Shadow shifted beside him, body relaxed but attentive, muscles moving with quiet precision, amber eyes scanning, yet always returning to Holden with an unmistakable look of understanding and loyalty. Each breath Holden took was measured, visible in the crisp air, syncing with the steady rise and fall of the dog's chest, the rhythm of life shared between them through countless missions, quiet nights, and subtle reassurances. The lot around them had emptied further, the distant hum of traffic and soft murmurs of the city blending seamlessly with the delicate drip of water from nearby roofs, the occasional rustle of leaves, and the whisper of wind through damp branches. Holden's hand rested lightly on Shadow's back, feeling the warmth, the steady pulse, the reassuring tension that had carried them through years of uncertainty, a tactile bond that spoke more than words ever could. Memories surfaced gently, fleeting images of desert dawns, long drives across gravel roads, nights under tents where the only sound was the wind, and Shadow's quiet presence offering calm, assurance, and a steadfast companion to weather every storm. Every step forward reinforced that trust, every glance and subtle movement an unspoken dialogue, the dog's instincts harmonizing perfectly with Holden's guidance. Shadow paused briefly at the edge of a shallow puddle, nose twitching, ears rotating slightly, eyes meeting Holden's with a subtle affirmation, a silent promise that the path forward would be navigated together with care, awareness, and unwavering loyalty. The reflections of light in the puddles shifted as the sun rose higher, elongating shadows and highlighting subtle contours of the dog's body, the sway of his tail, the careful placement of each paw, and the alignment between him and Holden. Each sound, movement, and visual cue in the lot now contributed to a quiet symphony, the rhythm of connection, patience, and unspoken understanding guiding the progression forward. The cool breeze stirred the mist slightly, revealing glimpses of distant buildings bathed in gentle light, the scene calm yet alive, emphasizing the bond and the trust that had been built over years of shared experiences. The anticipation that had marked the night had transformed into steady reassurance, the unspoken communication between Captain James Holden and Shadow carrying them with certainty through the space. Each step an affirmation of loyalty, each glance a quiet acknowledgement that no matter the uncertainty ahead, their connection would endure, unbroken, and every detail, the dampness of fur, the shimmer of puddles, the soft sounds of morning, wove together into a living testament to trust, presence, and enduring companionship, a reminder that even the smallest gestures of care could carry profound meaning. The morning had fully embraced the city, the pale sun casting long, soft shadows across the asphalt as Captain James Holden and Shadow moved with a quiet, assured rhythm, each step measured, deliberate, and fully in sync. The mist had dissipated almost entirely, leaving a faint shimmer on the wet concrete that mirrored the gentle gold light, creating reflections that danced with each paw step and boot fall. Holden's hand rested lightly on Shadow's back, feeling the warmth, the pulse, and the subtle tension that spoke of alertness and awareness, a tactile reassurance that the dog remained as steadfast as ever. The lot around them was now still, the soft hum of distant traffic blending with the faint drip from nearby rooftops and the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze, forming a quiet soundtrack to their measured progress. Shadow paused briefly, amber eyes flicking toward Holden, tail sweeping in a slow, deliberate arc, muscles coiling lightly in acknowledgement of the shared understanding, a silent signal that the path forward was clear and that their connection, forged through years of missions, trust, and small, intimate moments, governed every motion. Holden inhaled the crisp morning air, the scent of rain-soaked concrete, damp leather, and the earthy tang of wet foliage grounding him, steadying his pulse as he felt the weight of experience and the quiet certainty that Shadow's loyalty would guide them forward. Memories flickered like soft light in his mind, dawn breaking over desert horizons, the hush of wind through tents, Shadow pressing close during long nights, the small nudges and gestures that had created a bond stronger than words. Each memory threaded into the present, informing every subtle movement, every glance, and every breath, reinforcing the unspoken dialogue between man and dog. Reflections of the rising sun shimmered in puddles, highlighting the gentle sway of Shadow's coat, the careful placement of each paw, and the perfect alignment of his rhythm with Holden's steps. The lot stretched before them, an expansive stage, yet all the world narrowed to the shared space between man and dog, a living tableau of patience, trust, and synchronized presence. Every sound, every flicker of light, every subtle motion was imbued with meaning. The soft patter of water, the distant hum of the city, the occasional stir of leaves, forming a symphony of awareness and connection. Holden's gaze met Shadow's, and in that instant, the depth of their bond was undeniable, a quiet affirmation that loyalty and instinct had guided them through uncertainty to this serene, poised moment. Each step forward carried not only physical weight but the resonance of shared history, unbroken trust, and the quiet knowledge that even in the simplest gestures, the brush of fur against hand, the alignment of stride, the subtle glance of recognition, there was a profound expression of connection, a testament to the enduring strength of companionship and the invisible threads that bind two beings together, carrying them through both storm and calm with unwavering devotion.